Hi guys. On Friday we read half of chapter 1 of Ramona Quimby age 8. So today we are going to finish reading chapter 1. Ramona tried to act kindly toward little Willa Jean. After all, her family was depending on her. Not kindergarten, Willa Jean, she said. You mean nursery school. Willa Jean gave Ramona a cross, stubborn look that Ramona knew too well. I am too going to kindergarten, she said. Kindergarten is where the kids are. Bless her little heart, said her grandmother, admiring as always. The bus, the little yellow school bus Ramona had waited all summer to ride, pulled up at the curb. Ramona and Howie climbed aboard as if they were used to getting on buses by themselves. I did it just like a grown-up, thought Ramona. Good morning. I am Mrs. Hannah, your bus aide, said a woman sitting behind the driver. Take the first empty seats toward the back. Ramona and Howie took window seats on opposite sides of the bus, which had a reassuring new smell. Ramona always dreaded the people and fume smell of the big city buses. Bye-bye, called Mrs. Kemp and Willa Jean, waving as if Ramona and Howie were going on a long, long journey. Bye-bye. Howie pretended not to know them. As soon as the bus pulled away from the curb, Ramona felt someone kick the back of her seat. She turned and faced a sturdy boy wearing a baseball cap with the visor turned up and a white t-shirt with a long word printed across the front. She studied the word to see if she could find short words in it, as she had learned to do in second grade. Earthquakes. Earthquakes. Some kind of team. Yes, he looked like the sort of boy whose father would take him to ball games. He did not have a lunchbox, which meant he was going to buy his lunch in the cafeteria. A grown-up would not call him a purple cootie. Ramona faced front without speaking. This boy was not going to spoil her first day in the third grade. Thump, thump, thump against the back of Ramona's seat. The bus stopped for other children, some excited and some anxious. Still, the kicking continued. Ramona ignored it as the bus passed her former school. Good old Glenwood, thought Ramona, as if she had gone there a long, long time ago. All right, Danny, said the bus aide to the kicking boy. As long as I'm riding shotgun on this bus, we won't have anyone kicking the seats. Understand? Ramona smiled to herself as she heard Danny mutter an answer. How funny, the bus aide saying she was riding shotgun as if she were guarding a shipment of gold on a stagecoach instead of making children behave on a little yellow school bus. Ramona pretended she was riding a stagecoach pursued by robbers until she discovered her eraser. Her beautiful pink eraser was missing. Did you see my eraser? She asked a second-grade girl who had taken the seat beside her. The two searched the seat and the floor. No eraser. Ramona felt a tap on her shoulder and turned. Was it a pink eraser? Asked the boy in the baseball cap. Yes, Ramona was ready to forgive him for kicking her seat. Have you seen it? Nope, the boy grinned as he jerked down the visor of his baseball cap. That grin was too much for Ramona. Liar, she said with her most ferocious glare, and faced front once more, angry at the loss of her new eraser, angry with herself for dropping it so the boy could find it. Purple cootie, she thought, and hoped the cafeteria would serve him fish portions and those canned green beans with the strings left on, and apple wedges, the soft, mushy kind with tough skins for dessert. The bus stopped at Cedarhurst, Ramona's new school, a 2-story red brick building very much like her old school. As the children hopped out of the bus, Ramona felt a little thrill of triumph. She had not been carsick. She now discovered she felt as if she had grown even more than her feet. Third graders were the biggest people, except teachers, of course, at this school. All the little first and second graders running around the playground looking so young made Ramona feel tall, grown up, and sort of, well, wise in the ways of the world. Danny shoved ahead of her. Catch, he yelled to another boy. Something small and pink flew through the air and into the second boy's cupped hands. The boy wound up as if he were pitching a baseball, and the eraser flew back to Danny. You give me back my eraser. Encumbered by her lunchbox, Ramona chased Danny, who ran, ducking and dodging among the first and second graders. When she was about to catch him, he tossed her eraser to the other boy. If her lunchbox had not banged against her knees, Ramona might have been able to grab him. Unfortunately, the bell rang first. Yard apes, yelled Ramona, her name for the sort of boys who always got the best balls, who were always first on the playground and who chased their soccer balls through other people's hopscotch games. She saw her pink eraser fly back into Danny's hands. "Yard apes!" she called again, tears of anger in her eyes. "Yucky yard apes!" The boys, of course, paid no attention. Still fuming, Ramona entered her new school and climbed the stairs to find her assigned classroom, which she discovered looked out over roofs and treetops to Mount Hood in the distance. I wish it would erupt, she thought, because she felt like exploding with anger. Ramona's new room was filled with excitement and confusion. She saw some people she had known at her old school, others were strangers. Everyone was talking at once, shouting greetings to old friends or looking over those who would soon become new friends, rivals, or enemies. Ramona missed Howie, who had been assigned to another room, but wouldn't you know, that yard ape Danny was sitting at a desk, still wearing his baseball cap and tossing Ramona's new eraser from one hand to another. Ramona was too frustrated to speak. She wanted to hit him. How dare he spoil her day? "All right, you guys, quiet down," said the teacher. Ramona was startled to hear her class called "you guys." Most teachers she had known would say something like, "I feel I am talking very loud. Is it because the room is noisy?" She chose a chair at the back table, at a table at the front of the room, and studied her new teacher, a strong-looking woman with short hair and a deep tan. "Like my swimming teacher," thought Ramona. "My name is Mrs. Whaley," said the teacher as she printed her name on the blackboard. "Whaley. I'm a whale with a Y for a tail." She laughed, and so did her class. Then the whale with a Y for a tail handed Ramona some slips of paper. "Please pass these out," she directed. "We need some name tags until I get to know you." Ramona did as she was told, and as she walked among the desks, she discovered her new sandals squeaked. "Squeak, creak, squeak," Ramona giggled, and so did the rest of the class. "Squeak, creak, squeak." Ramona went up one aisle and down the other. The last person she gave a slip to was the boy from the bus, who was still wearing his baseball cap. "You give me back my eraser, you yard ape," she whispered. "Try and get it, Bigfoot," he whispered back with a grin. Ramona stared at her feet. Bigfoot? Bigfoot was a hairy creature 10 feet tall, who was supposed to leave huge footprints in the mountain snows of southern Oregon. Some people thought they had seen Bigfoot slipping through the forests, but no one had ever been able to prove he really existed. Bigfoot indeed. Ramona's feet had grown, but they were not huge. She was not going to let him get away with this insult. "Superfoot to you, yard ape," she said right out loud, realizing too late that she had given herself a new nickname. To her astonishment, Yard Ape pulled her eraser out of his pocket and handed it to her with a grin. "Well," with her nose in the air, Ramona squeaked back to her seat. She felt so triumphant that she returned the longest way around and bent her feet as much as she could to make the loudest possible squeaks. She had done the right thing. She had not let Yard Ape upset her by calling her Bigfoot, and now she had her eraser in her hand. He would probably call her Superfoot forever, but she did not care. Superfoot was a name she had given herself. That made all the difference. She had won. Ramona became aware that she was squeaking in the midst of an unusual silence. She stopped mid-squeak when she saw her new teacher watching her with a little smile. The class was watching the teacher. "We all know you have musical shoes," said Mrs. Whaley. Of course the class laughed. By walking with stiff legs and not bending her feet, Ramona reached her seat without squeaking at all. She did not know what to think. At first, she thought Mrs. Whaley's remark was a reprimand, but then maybe her teacher was just trying to be funny. She couldn't tell about grown-ups sometimes. Ramona finally decided that any teacher who would let Yard Ape wear his baseball cap in the classroom wasn't really fussy about squeaking shoes. Ramona bent over her paper and wrote slowly and carefully in cursive, "Ramona Quimby, age 8. She admired the look of what she had written, and she was happy. She liked feeling tall in her new school. She liked, or was pretty sure she liked, her non-fussy teacher. Yard Ape, well, he was a problem, but so far she had not let him get the best of her for keeps. Besides, although she might never admit it to anyone, now that she had her eraser back, she liked him. Sort of. Maybe she enjoyed a challenge. Ramona began to draw a fancy border, all scallops and curly cues around her name. She was happy too, because her family had been happy that morning, and because she was big enough for her family to depend on. If only she could do something about Willa Jean. So that is the end of chapter 1. Tomorrow we will read part of chapter 2, which is called At Howie's House. So I hope you enjoyed chapter 1. Try to talk about chapter 1 with a family member or somebody, or write down a quick summary of chapter 1 so you don't forget what it was about.